now it's time, and we're going to try it and bring the family back and see what kind of magic we can make all together.
Hi there, it's WAMC News Director Ian Pickus, and on this episode of the WAMC News Podcast, a preview of the October Fund Drive here at WAMC. Well, we'll be going old school this fund drive, back in Pledge Central for the first time since before the COVID-19 pandemic. And if you're somebody who listens to the WAMC News Podcast and this is your connection to WAMC, we need your help to keep products like this in production. And that's true for WAMC on the radio, online, and in this digital space. Joining me now for a preview of the Fall Fund Drive are two people who have been working hard on it in recent days. WAMC's Membership Director, Amber Sickles. Hi, Amber.
Hi, Ian.
And WAMC's Interim CEO, Stacey Rosenberry, who has a lot of other jobs also. Hey, Stacey.
Hello.
Well, let's start with Amber. It's going to be a little bit different. We're going to be back in Pledge Central with the ringing phones, full day fund drive. What's on tap?
Well, the full fund drive starts on air on October 16th, and we are going old school back to a full room of volunteers. We've always had around 19 volunteers at a time, and then COVID hit, and we couldn't do that anymore. So now it's time, and we're going to try it and bring the family back and see what kind of magic we can make all together.
First things first, if somebody's listening to this podcast and they have not made a pledge in a while, how can they do it?
Online. It's the easiest way, WAMC.org. There's multiple places when you hit the website. There's a yellow donate button at the top. Often we have a banner during the drive. We'll have more information that you can just click on and go to the pledge page and enter your information.
So this is a $1 million goal. If you do make a pledge to the station, Stacey, what does it help support?
Oh, everything. Our award-winning newscasts, our 29 translators and transmitters, keeping those up to date and bringing you solid signals. The wonderful staff here who has been working hard together every day to bring you everything that you've come to know and love about WAMC. And, we'd like to keep that going.
I have to say, Stacey, one thing in my job in the newsroom that's always been a bit mystifying is how this stuff actually gets out there, including this conversation we're having right now. You come from the engineering side, so a lot of that support goes to keeping up the technical side of doing public radio, right? Yeah,
it takes a lot of money to keep everything on the air. Our wonderful Jessica O'Rourke, who visits every single one of our transmitters and translators 4 times a year, weather pending, at some of the locations. But we've had to upgrade quite a bit of equipment, and if even despite our best efforts, if a tower takes a lightning strike or equipment takes a lightning strike, that's a whole new radio station we have to rebuild.
It seems like there's pretty much always something to fix around here.
Yeah, internally and externally. We've got a lot of studios here that we just upgraded as well, bringing into the digital age, most of our studios here finally. So, yeah, it takes a lot of money.
Well, Amber, let's talk about the fund drive itself now. We haven't had one of these in a long time, traditional old school style fund drive. And although I've never seen us fail in the 15 years I've worked here, there is always the possibility that, if the people don't come through, then we'll be left short, and that will have a huge impact on the station's operations. So the stakes, even though we're laughing about them, are pretty high, don't you think?
Oh, they definitely are. Every drive, we are pushing to reach our goal. Sometimes it happens very quickly, and sometimes it doesn't. There are a lot of reasons for that, but at the end, our listeners always come through. And you know that they're there because every time we do a drive, whether it's a remote drive like we've been doing since COVID or the old school type, we get comments with every donation, with folks telling us what they love about the station, how much it means to them. Often you hear about somebody who maybe lives in a rural area or maybe doesn't get out of the house much for whatever reason, and their radio is their constant companion. They'll call and tell us, Amber, I go from my living room radio to my kitchen radio to fix my lunch, and then back into my living room when I'm in the car. It's the only station on my dial that I have. And it really just lends itself to the dedication that our listeners have to what we do here and how much that means to them. And that's everybody. I mean, we have many listeners and many people who know what it takes to support public radio and what that means to our communities.
I think that was really brought home for me, especially in the summer, July storms, where huge portions of our listening area were in really emergency conditions, Vermont and the lower Hudson Valley, parts of Connecticut and Massachusetts. So during those emergency times, people were turning to WAMC just for updates about which roads were still there and what the power was going to be. But also afterwards, the weeks and months after, right through this conversation, following up on the aftermath on the news side of natural disasters, I think that's an area where, public radio kind of steps up and fills in a gap, like you're saying, where other places might just not have that coverage.
100%. I mean, the hurricanes that have come through in the last few years, WAMC has always been the one to be there long after it leaves the traditional news cycle everywhere else. We have always been there for you as much as, our listeners have been there for us.
So let's end our conversation by talking about the elephant in the room. This is our first real fund drive without the founder of the station, Alan Chartok, although I'm sure he'll be listening. So he kind of showed us the way to do this. We're going to find out if we can do it without him. But what do you think when you think about, the lessons Alan taught us about how to do this fund drive? Amber, let's start with you.
Well, I think that many of us have been here quite a long time, some more than others, but what Alan created was a great group of people that followed his vision all the way through and want to continue to do the right thing. He's taught us all along the way, but nothing was ever more contagious than his passion. And I think that you'd be hard-pressed to find somebody here that doesn't also have the same passion for WAMC. And I think that is the strength in our staff. That is the strength in who we are. I think that our listeners trust who we are and trust what Alan has built here. And I have full confidence that we'll make it through this drive just as well.
What about you, Stacy?
Yeah, and building off of what, Amber said, the listeners have trust in us. I trust our listeners and our members to continue to be there as much as they have been all these years. A lot of us have worked here for many years, and the best of the station comes first for us in providing solid ground for our members, for our listeners. And I know they'll come through. It may take a little bit longer than we're used to, but I know we'll get there.
On a personal note, I'll just say, as someone who's going to be on the air pitching, that this podcast is over 440 episodes in so far, and that is because people have supported the efforts of WAMC. When you give to WAMC, you're supporting our national productions, you're supporting our NPR feed, BBC, all of the syndicated shows we bring you, but also the people who show up to work here at 318 and in the bureaus every day at WAMC. So please don't take it for granted. The fund drive is back on October 16th. Woo! We cannot do it without you, and we won't do it without you. It's as simple as that. Meantime, Stacy and Amber, best of luck. Get some rest, and we'll see you in Pledge Central.
Same to you, Ian. Thanks,
you. Ian.
Okay, that does it for this episode of the WAMC News Podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time, I'm Ian Pickus.